joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you are a social entrepreneur. Tell us what that means.
Social entrepreneur is a business person who uses business principles to serve a social imperative of sorts. So I focus on youth empowerment and youth development, and I use business principles to engage with the corporate environment and say, how do we grow sustainable solutions into the social impact space? For me, primarily in ways that we can engage young people, empower and develop them in South Africa.
Okay, can you give us an example of a project that you've worked on?
A project, well, there's a number of different platforms. So one of the things that we have as difficulty in South Africa is young entrepreneurs, and how they try and engage with the corporate environment, the whole exercise of pitching, the whole exercise of everything else that happens in being an entrepreneur. So on the one context, you have government that says we need more entrepreneurs and we need them to start doing what it is that they want to do. On the other context, you have a banking system in South Africa that doesn't necessarily lend quite freely and quite easily. So then you have the transformation policy that says let's use enterprise development funds. So what generally happens is that you have the corporate that's sitting with the funding, you have the entrepreneur that's sitting with the ideas or some kind of things to solve. But because even in the corporate environment, even in enterprise development, you have the venture capitalist models that are applied. So you're expecting an entrepreneur to have the same expertise as one of the boards of the multinational Fortune 500 in one person. Not very realistic, especially within the context of South Africa.
Yeah. So what is the role of the brand in this scenario?
The role of the brand in this scenario is that in South Africa, in our context, you want to be an organization that is engaged, in tune with the reality that is out there. So if you're talking entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship development, you want to be in a space where you're engaging solutions that make sense to the context of South Africans operating in South Africa. So for example, you'll have a net bank that wants to do either CSR or entrepreneurship. So what will generally happen is, not generally, this may not be fair, but what I've seen as advertising platforms is Nedbank will sponsor children to do whatever it is that they sponsor them to do. Now, because it's considered charity, they never then convert necessarily into those kids having Nedbank bank accounts. Now, what's wrong with that? And then you have when the shareholders are saying, great, you did this initiative, it's great, we've got X amount of kids, we've got the traction, we've got the marketing mileage, but at the end of the day, Nedbank isn't a charity fund, it is a bank, and it needs more and more people to get their accounts. So how do we then start having a solution that says, fine, do the CSR, but how do we convert that into the people you're benefiting to have your banking accounts and grow with you? Now what that also allows is Nedbank a different community to start engaging with and saying, how do we develop a product for the people we're trying to help, using the people we're already engaging in our CSR.